Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, home of the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we'll be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, get comfortable, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage as we get you to join the conversation. We're going to go ahead and, we actually have a pretty special show today. We did a part one, if you recall, Skywatching 101. We had Mr. Tom King, Tim Senor, and actually we have Tom King back again. First, let me bring in the engineer at the Social Dig, Mr. Mateo. How you doing, sir?
How you doing, Rob? Great to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Ready to get into this part two of Skywatching 2.0. We can't do that without bringing in the man of the hour, Mr. Tom F. King. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Another
Friday above ground.
That's right. Friday Night Live. And I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to have some fun today. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the news. Let's go. All right, so today, this week in Disclosure News, we're going to go ahead and jump in and get to talking about Artemis 2. We're going back to the moon coming soon. And they introduced the astronauts that are actually going to take part in this trip to the moon. Apparently, they're not actually landing. They're going to go ahead and circle the moon. So they went ahead and did a reveal. So let me go ahead and jump into who exactly we have taking part in this mission. So this is the Artemis crew. So just so you know, NASA's plan has announced that the astronauts that we've taken part in the upcoming Artemis 2 mission, the mission is a critical step in the agency's plan to send humans back to the moon. Now, this Artemis 2 mission is set to launch in 2024, and it'll be the first crewed mission of the Artemis program. The spaceship will be launched on the powerful Space Launch System, or SLS rocket. It will carry a crew of 4 astronauts, as pictured here. So getting into who they are as individuals, just a little background on each one of these astronauts. You have the commander, who is Commander Reed Wiseman. Now, a little bit about Reed. He's a NASA astronaut, a retired United States Navy officer. He was selected as an astronaut candidate by NASA in 2009 and completed his astronaut training in 2011. Wiseman has flown to space once as part of Expedition 40 and 41 to the International Space Station in 2014. Now, during his time on the International Space Station, Wiseman conducted a number of experiments and took part in spacewalks to perform maintenance on the space station. Prior to becoming an astronaut, Wiseman served in the Navy as a test pilot and flew combat missions during Operation Enduring Freedom. Now, moving on, we have the pilot of Artemis, who is pilot Victor Glover. Now, Victor is a NASA astronaut and a former United States Navy commander. He was selected by NASA in 2013 as a part of the astronaut Group 21, and he completed his astronaut candidate training in 2015. On November 15, 2020, Glover became the first African-American astronaut to live and work aboard the International Space Station for an extended period of time as part of the Crew 1 mission. He has logged over 4,000 flight hours in more than 40 aircraft, and he has flown 24 combat missions. Next, we have the mission specialists. We have 2 mission specialists on this trip. This is going to be mission specialist Christina Koch. Now, Christina served as a mission specialist on the International Space Station. Also, she was selected as an astronaut by NASA in 2013 and completed her astronaut candidate training in 2015. Katya's first space flight was as a flight engineer on Expedition 59 and 60, which launched on March 14, 2019, and returned to Earth on February 6, 2020. During this mission, she conducted multiple spacewalks and set a record for the longest continuous space flight by a woman, spending 328 days in space. Koch's work on the International Space Station focused on scientific research in areas such as biology, biotechnology, and physical science, as well as technology development and spacewalks to maintain and upgrade the space station. Now, the other mission specialist is, and Dave Scott should be proud of this guy, it's a Canadian, Jeremy, a former Canadian astronaut who was selected in May of 2009 as a part of the Canadian Space Agency. Hansen actually served as an aquanaut aboard the Aquarius Underwater Laboratory during the Nemo 19 undersea exploration mission, which began on September 4th, 2014. This lasted 7 days. During his time with the Canadian Space Agency, Hansen served as a mission specialist, and he was responsible for a variety of tasks related to spaceflight, including robotics, spacewalks, and other critical mission activities. Prior to joining the Canadian Space Agency, Hansen was an officer in the Royal Canadian Air Force, where he flew CF-18 Hornet fighter jets. Hansen will be the first Canadian to go to the moon. Now, the Artemis 2 mission will take the crew on a journey around the moon, testing critical systems and technology needed for future human missions to the lunar surface. The mission is a significant step forward for NASA's Artemis program and represents a major milestone in the agency's effort to establish a sustainable human presence on the moon. So, I know you have a little bit of information about the Artemis and what their long-term mission is. So, I guess this trip in 2024 will be just to circle the moon and then to come back to Earth. Do you have any more information on that?
Yeah, obviously the critical part of this mission is to test the life support system, right? Because Artemis 1, there wasn't anybody aboard except the dummy and the Snoopy that was floating around. And now Boeing has added life support system to the Orion capsule. So that's a big deal. So these 4 people, very, really a tremendous group. Victor Glover has been like the face of NASA for years. He's always on their, presentations, and he always shows up for space launches and he gives commentary. So everybody knows him. They're they're going to be guinea pigs for the life support system and everything else that has to do with traveling to the moon, Van Allen belt radiation, all that wonderful stuff. So yeah, they've got an important job, and so yeah, the Artemis 3 will be the first landing, which I believe is slated for 25 or 26, something like that. So yeah, very interesting and a great group. And I did see them. They were on Stephen Colbert, Late Night with Stephen Colbert, and they were all on there. And the
They've been making they've been doing a press run. I've seen them on Good Day Today, or seen them everywhere. They're all over the place. I mean, and it's fitting because if you think about it, as far as astronauts that have gone to the moon, there's been plenty of them throughout the missions that we've had, but the most famous would have been like Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, like the first time we went. This is almost like the first time again, like the same sort of feeling and pride behind the space mission and what's going on. Don't you agree? Don't you get that kind of first time to the moon sort of aura as far as behind this thing here?
Definitely. I mean, they're promoting it because this is a big deal, and they're trying to get society behind it again, like it was in the '60s. Obviously, in the 60s, the space race was a big deal and everybody was tuned in. 500, half a billion people watched Apollo 11. So anyhow, no, I think it's great. I don't mind. They can play it up all they want. I'd rather they talk about this. It's a positive thing. It's an accomplishment for the country and the world. It's a lot better than some of the other news going on. So I'm all in favor.
What do you think about that, Mr. King? What do you think about the astronauts finally going back to the moon? What's your opinion?
Well, this is really nostalgic for me. I've been following this too close, but all these people that get on this rocket are heroes, because you don't know if they're going to blow up, if you're going to die, or even make it back.
Right.
Like we're all around kind of the same age, and I remember as a kid watching these missions, and this transformed me. A big deal of who I am today and why I'm into all this nerdy stuff is because of this. Because when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be an astronaut. I wanted to be those people. I'm like, okay, cool. We get to go into outer space. Star Wars had came out, and I'm like, we're really going to have a Star Wars era, and I'm going to, eventually we'll have X-Wings and whatnot. I mean, I did get the droid, but we don't have the X-Wings. But I thought, this is so cool. And, like The Shining, even the kid in The Shining had an Apollo 11 shirt on, right? And toys. It was a big, big thing. And I was so disappointed when we said, nope, we're done with the moon. I was just heartbroken. It's like, so I'm not going to be an astronaut? Damn it, I'm going to end up doing construction. This isn't how I wanted. But now we're going back, man. We're going back. There's all those conspiracies that humans can't survive the radiation of Van Allen belt is because of the shielding on the capsule wasn't thick enough. And then there's the conspiracies that we never went to the moon. I personally believe we have, because I worked with the researcher Donald Ratch, who used to order all these NASA tapes in Super VHS, and he'd send me copies. And I've seen so much footage. It's obviously we did go there, we orbited the moon, and we landed. But it's exciting this is happening. The next astronauts, I wish we had more of this. I wish this was like a movie and we are launching 5 to 10 of these damn rockets, and we have to, if we're going to build a society on the moon, you're not going to do it one every couple of years. We're going to have to basically send, hundreds of these things over time to build up the construction of a moon base.
Right. And then, I mean, you just think about it. I think about how long ago that was when we first went to the moon. It's almost 53 years, somewhere 54 years. Just imagine if we had stayed on that path, would we have touched Mars by now? It's like that's we're using the moon as a jumping off point to then go to Mars, and that's the plan going forward. But I always wonder if we would have stuck with the space program, stuck with deep space exploration, if we would already be on Mars.
I think we would have. It all boiled down to money, sadly. Apollo was, I think, 4% of the federal budget in the 60s. I remember reading about this. It was a huge percentage for obvious reasons, because the space race was important to win. Mid-70s, that all came crashing down, and it never really recovered. And the decision was made not to go to Mars. But yeah, there was talk of Mars back then. I remember it vividly. Better late than never. And now we can do it, maybe for a little less money. And
let me ask you this though. I'll pose this question to both of you guys. Since this trip 1 year from now will be to orbit the moon, to the dark side of the moon, do you think these astronauts will tell us anything if they see something on the backside of the moon, or do you think it's going to be mum's the word?
I don't know. I have an opinion. I'll let you go first, Tom.
Well, that's up to every individual astronaut anymore. The country's a little more progressive and woke and whatnot, where this is being talked about. We had a couple of astronauts that were shuttle astronauts that said they saw snakes in space, like sea snakes, weird organic type things. There's a few that have admitted stuff. But yeah, who knows? What's disappointing is they always go there with like crappy cameras. Excuse me. I came down with a sore throat about 4 hours ago, so I'm chewing on Halls.
Oh, you're
so
good.
I can talk. But yeah, the cameras are always bad. I would love to have a live feed of everything they're doing. You know, I'd love to have a live feed of the James Webb telescope, but we don't have that. We don't have access to. I'd love to see live feeds of the Mars rover, but we always have edited after the fact stuff.
Yeah,
they did have some live feeds from Artemis 1 of the outside of the Orion and in the Orion, so we may get more of that this time, Tom.
Well,
yeah, let's hope so.
Well, we'll call them live feeds because who knows how live those feeds actually were. Those could easily been playbacks. And see, that's going to be the conspiracy here. That's why I'm hoping that these astronauts, and I wish someone would have asked or would ask them before they actually take the trip, like interview them and pose that question. Say, hey, if you do see anything, you know, is this something that you'd be willing to, because it shouldn't be a top secret thing, I wouldn't think, right? That shouldn't be considered top secret.
If you're familiar with the NASA video called SDS-48, there were about 4 or 5 different events that happened on that mission, and that was a weird one where it looked like somebody was trying to shoot down these UFOs. If it was the government using some type of energy weapon, or it was the UFOs fighting the UFOs. But anyway, some history that, you know, I've been in ufology for a while and I got a damn good memory. After that event happened, that was captured on a live feed by a Canadian who was monitoring that. I believe his name is Martin Stubbs. And after that, they put a delay on it. So that way they have like a minute or 2 delay. So that way they can cut the camera. Every time something weird like that happens, they switch to a cargo bay view, move the camera down from the action. That very seldom they zoom in. They're not curious like scientists should be, but they're like, let's look at the shuttle bay. And then people get bored, you know, and NASA, the problem with this is NASA television is extremely hard to watch. I mean, if you have insomnia, you turn on that NASA channel, you're dead asleep. It's better than C-SPAN for going to sleep. They need to get a program director in there that could make that entertaining to get millennials and Gen Z watching this. Space could be exciting, but they've made it very boring.
Here's how you make it exciting. You show what's actually happening instead of, you know, cutting out all the good stuff, because obviously, you know, there's things going, it's activity all the time. It has to be the same way, Tom, that you look up at the sky and you find these objects all the time. They're in space with the same sort of activity. So NASA, I just hope. And I guess I guess NASA is over this whole thing, right? This isn't SpaceX or anything.
No, this is NASA. So. To your point, Rob, one comment I'm going to say about whether or not these astronauts are going to come clean or be forthright with what they see. 3 of them have already spent months and months and months aboard the International Space Station. So, in my opinion, if they've already seen what there is to be seen. So
that makes sense.
May already be part of they may already be indoctrinated, if you will, and therefore, I hate to say it, they're probably going to keep their mouths shut.
Well, isn't this classified?
No, this isn't classified. It's just that I'm saying, Tom, they probably have already seen anomalous phenomena, because they spent so much time on the space station. So they haven't spoken yet. They're not going to say anything on this mission either, probably.
To clarify, not the mission's classified. Anything that's governmental UAP ends up classified down the rabbit hole. So they can go on, we're seeing this. Look at these rocks. And then
look at those craters. Yeah. Boring shit, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think Tom froze on us. Okay, he's back.
But yeah, if they see curious stuff, it's cool. But if it's weird, it's classified. What the hell happened to our government where we got that way? But that is what it is.
So I wonder then. So we have nowadays, obviously, we have civilians and private entities with telescopes that are pretty strong in today's time. So I wonder if we'd be able to track their movement around the moon as it happens from Earth. Is it plausible?
Yes, it is. You can. They will be able to track it. It's not easy, but you can pick it up at the right time.
Yeah. So maybe
Barely, but you
we'll have
can. And
something
if
there.
Hubble
I
were to
think,
look at it, they could see it too.
and I think someone needs to make that the like a thing. Like we really, someone needs to sign up to do that for the citizens to kind of just have our own data set. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we saw them orbit the moon. Okay, so now as far as confirmation goes, obviously we won't know what they saw on the other side, but I don't know, man. Well, whatever. I guess if they do end up seeing something, they'll just do like they've done the entire time. Because Neil Armstrong said he saw something. I guess that whole thing won't change. So I don't know. Onwards and upwards. But with speaking of UFOs, there's actually a UFO hearing coming up, and maybe they'll discuss some of this there. But Kirsten Gillibrand, our current favorite friend right now, she's really doing a lot on behalf of us and disclosure, it would seem. And as far as Kirsten Gillibrand goes, she is holding, well, not just her, but the Senate will be holding hearings on a topic that has been long shrouded in mystery and speculation. The hearings will focus on the unidentified anomalous phenomena, or as we know them, unidentified flying objects, commonly referred to as UFOs. The hearing will address a range of topics to UFOs, including sightings, encounters, and potential threats posed by these objects. Senator Gillibrand has invited experts in the UFO research to speak at the hearings, including scientists, military officials, and other government representatives. The experts will provide valuable insights into the phenomena and discuss potential implications for national security and the broader scientific community. These hearings will provide an opportunity for lawmakers and officials to discuss the importance of funding the ARROW and address the growing concerns about UAPs over U.S. airspace. These hearings will also provide an opportunity for lawmakers to consider potential policy changes related to UFO research and disclosure, and to ensure that government resources are appropriately allocated to the study of this humanity changing topic. These hearings also represent another significant step forward in the study of UFOs and the potential confirmation of their existence, and present an opportunity for experts, lawmakers, and hopefully at some point citizens to engage in a productive conversation on the UFO topic. What do you think about this, Mateo? I know you have some familiarity with what's going on with this.
April 19th, right? This coming
Fingers
Wednesday.
crossed. Is there
Wednesday.
is there
So,
anyone in specific that you know, someone that we want to stand in front of the Senate?
well, we have Marco Rubio. He's a senator, so he'll be there. I don't know who else is going to be on this committee or who's going to actually be able to pose questions. So it'll be revealing to all of us, and I think this is a great litmus test as to how the hearings this year and in the future are going to go. This time, given the frustration, the just the whole anticlimactic result of the first hearing, where everything was just continued to be obfuscated by Moultrie and Bray. This time, I don't think they're going to be able to get away with that. My only concern about this hearing is I don't want them to get hung up on the China balloon aspect. What happened during the Chinese balloon shoot down and the 3 other things that were shot down is going to get talked about in this hearing, I heard. I don't want them to get hung up on that, because this is where, and as I'm sure you guys will agree, we don't want to be talking about UAP as much. We want to be talking about UFOs.
Right.
And this is where all eyes are going to be on this to see, are they really going to bring, cut to the chase and bring out the issues that we all want to hear about. I don't want to hear them digress into something that's known or terrestrial and explainable. And so that's all. I think that's all I know. I don't know anything else. Tom may know more what might be coming, but I think we're all just kind of waiting to see how this is going to play out, and if they're going to ask the hard questions or not.
Yeah, have you heard anything, Tom, behind the scenes? Any rumblings of any Bob Lazars, or any of the guys that we would love to see up there being able to give their story?
Well, apparently a lot of the people, quite a few people, I guess, have testified in the scenes. Some of them the names have been public, and they just said, yeah, I've talked to them. I wish this was a public hearings on television live, even, C-SPAN it, whatever you have to, as long as we have, a public record that we can go, well, you said this. I do know that the day before that, on the 18th, the new season of Skinwalker Ranch starts. And if you've been watching Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, some of the episodes are kind of a little hard to get through, but I watch it because they're doing actual science on a weird location. Apparently, there's a Skinwalker Ranch in Europe that they're doing this type of thing on. What I do know is you're going to want to watch Skinwalker Ranch this season. I do know something about that's coming. I don't know exactly what, but I know. I'm not even going to say. But I can't wait to see this unfold. That's all I'm going to say, man. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Because all I say is I'm going to say, the best thing that ever could have happened to Skinwalker Ranch has happened. And I can't wait to see what goes down. It's going to be fascinating, because we're going to be talking about that on the show. I guarantee it.
See, and that makes me wonder, because I've been wondering what in the world Green Street has been up to. Because he has the current Basement Office series being done from Skinwalker Ranch, and he's holding on to this episode 5, which is supposed to be the most important episode in this collection. And it's he's insinuated that maybe his time there, he doesn't find anything anomalous, and it's kind of hard to read him on that, because it seems like he's trying to discount what's going on in Skinwalker Ranch, and then sometimes it feels like he might be helping promote what's going on there. So the thing that about, Tom, that's supposed to come up this season, is it related to anything going on with what Green Street was doing there?
I'm not sure. No. The stuff I know has nothing to do with Stephen Green Street. He's a slippery snake. I wouldn't trust that guy at all. I'm kind of disappointed that Brandon Frugal brought him out there, gave him the full treatment, flew him around in the helicopter just to get stabbed in the back over it. I mean, Jesus Christ, bring me out there. I'll be, I might not see nothing, but I ain't going to talk shit about a billionaire as soon as I get off his helicopter and step back in my state.
Yeah, it was. I questioned it. I said, if this is a fake thing happening at the ranch, why would he allow Green Street there? And so the fact that he did must mean there is something going on there. I just don't know. And I don't understand why Green Street's holding on to it. I think he might actually be waiting for the premiere of Skinwalker Ranch as well. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But since we're talking about Skinwalker Ranch, the previous owner, Bigelow, had the NEDS group working over there. And it's kind of what the Skinwalker book was written behind. Actually, let me go ahead. And I think I have a clip here that I wanted to show you guys. And actually, it's Dr. Colm Kelleher, lead investigator with NEDS. And he said something that was pretty shocking. I haven't read the book personally, but I've read small snippets of it. But this kind of blew my mind. So let me bring up the clip here. I think we play from
Physics,
here.
which will eventually translate into engineering.
Does our government have downed UFOs from unknown origin that they've been trying and are trying to reverse engineer and exploit those technologies, understand the physics, understand that technology? Do we have that to work with?
I can't talk about that, but the answer is yes.
Let me ask it this way. So there are a number of whistleblowers who have new protections. They're lining up. We know some of them, and that we know generally what they're prepared to say. Let's say they tell this to Congress, and Congress authorizes Arrow, hey, the stuff is over here, go get it. How does that change the world if we suddenly acknowledge, or at least the government finds and locates and tests somewhat in the open, these metamaterials created by someone else, they're not ours, or entire craft that were built by someone else and we can't figure out how they fly? How does that change the dynamic of this? And does that answer the big questions? Who built them, where they're from, why they're here?
Well, it certainly answers the sneaking that people for many decades. The United States is of what has happened closed doors. In terms of the questions that you're talking about, though, technical performance and performance characteristics are fundamental. If the analysis, the level of analysis on these objects is sufficient to generate, as I said, physics, engineering, that is a major breakthrough, and that would be a fundamental departure point for humanity, because humanity would be able to answer that question: are we alone or not alone in the universe?
We wouldn't be able to answer from that, just from the raw materials or the metamaterials, where they're from or what their interest is. The bigger question is, why are they here? Where are they from? What's their interest in us?
Yeah,
Right.
But at least that, if you had that confirmed, yeah, there is somebody else here. Here it is. Here's the stuff. Then you could go on and answer, at least address the other questions.
Well, and not only that, but you could get, the Galileo project has got a lot of different scientific talent and expertise associated with it. So you could start really sort of co-opting scientific organizations. That's already happening, actually, but I think you could really accelerate that once the certainty was there that there was technology of unknown origin in existence, that it had been, it had been really discovered, and that it was unequivocal. If that message was put out to humanity, it would be a game changer.
Is that true? And the message hasn't been put out?
The message hasn't been put out.
But is that true? What you said, that there's technology of unknown
Well,
origin?
I like I said, I can't talk about it, but the answer is yes.
There you have it, folks.
Everything's secret.
I mean, he in so many words. I mean, I don't know though, right?
Isn't that confirmation? Hello?
It sounds like it.
What does everyone
Is it that
else think?
simple?
It sure seems like he's confirmed that we're reverse engineering. And honestly, I watched that whole broadcast, and I wasn't a big fan of Com Kelleher because of the contents of the hunt for the Skinwalker. I thought some of that stuff was a little out there, but he's no dummy. He's a physicist, and he was pretty matter of fact, and he really has nothing to gain at this point. And I don't know. It's anecdotal again, so you have to go with that. But he's saying we're doing it, and if the answer is we're reverse engineering, then what if we're reverse engineering a non-terrestrial craft? That means there's non-terrestrials. Okay. We're not alone, folks.
By process of elimination, that totally makes sense. What do you think about that, Tom? That's crazy news, right?
Well, yeah, we reverse engineer everything. When we've had Russian defectors come over and say, "Hey, I'm defecting. Here's my plane. give me a free house or something. We take that plane apart and study it. You know, how does the MiGs work? How does their stuff work? They do the same thing to us. When we lose an F-35 in the ocean, it's a race to get that thing off the bottom before China doesn't copies it. And like you were talking about earlier with the balloon stuff, Chris Ladle was saying that he's never seen the inside interior of the cockpit of an F-35. It's classified. I think the F-22 is too. They do not want to show us what technology is in that high-tech jet. Wow. It'd be interesting to buy them on Microsoft Flight Simulator and see if they have, because they have interiors. What do they do? This stuff, you know, all the screens. Like, see, they could show you the shoot down screen of like an F-16s. We see that all the time. But would they show us the technology an F-35 has? It gets copied the next day in China. So, reverse engineering is a normal part of just every state trying to protect itself and learn what the other state secrets are. As far as UFO stuff, I can kind of see why they don't even want to say, ridicule it, because we got to figure this out before they figure it out, because they weaponize everything. Everything turns into a weapon or a weapons delivery system. So, yeah, I kind of think that disclosure has kind of happened in a way where they've at least disclosed, look, there's something flying around the skies. We've had ex-presidents name it, ex-DNI, DIA, all these alphabet soup, ex-NSA, CIA, they all talk about there's something flying around in the sky. So this has been disclosed. We just haven't been disclosed who they are, what they're here for, and what they're doing with this. Because those answers, I think, are the scariest ones. Because, I mean, it's unknown. We had this Congress going on and say, well, geez, we don't know what these things are. And then at the other hand, we got these people going, hey, we got bodies. Roswell happened. We have all this other evidence. We have these things visiting nuclear bases. So on one hand, we have, this sleight of hand going on with Congress and these investigations. And then on the other hand, we have this deep stuff, like some of these guys saying, we know there's recovered craft. We know where they are. We know where they're being worked on. So they can't be both. It has to be either or here in the truth.
Well, see, and that's what makes me, who is Tom Kelleher dealing with currently? I mean, because he was off the scene for a minute. Name came up because of the book and the whole Skinwalker situation. But where has he been? Who is he currently dealing with? Do you know, Mateo? Have you?
I don't
who is he
know.
working with?
He's. I don't think he's currently involved officially with anyone. I'm sure he's indirectly connected with everyone still. He's still connected with Eric Davis and all of the other players from NIDS and from OSAP and what came after that. So I'm sure he's in touch with everybody in the current, Aero office.
Yeah.
And was in touch with the UAP task force. So I'm sure he still has his contacts. But to Tom's point, Tom Kelleher can come out and say, yes, we're reverse engineering crash retrievals of non-terrestrial craft, which is basically what he said, or exactly what he said, even though he said, I can't talk about it. Unless you take that to heart and believe it, then no one's going to ask the follow-up questions, the scary ones that Tom just said. Who they are, where did they come from, why are they here, and what do they want with us? That's the question that the government doesn't want to get asked. And the minute the government admits to what Tom Kelleher said, then here it comes. The floodgates are going to be open, and every press reporter who has a clue, and if those who don't will get a clue, will immediately fire those questions. And the government will get inundated with those questions. Because obviously those are the follow-ups. So as long as you keep the fact that these things did occur, crashes did occur, the reverse engineering is occurring in private industries, black budget programs, etc. As long as you keep that under wraps, then the follow-up questions can't happen. So that's my reason for the continued behavior. That's probably going to persist as long as
the
possible.
scary thing is that because obviously the government's line has been, oh yeah, there's these things, we're just not sure what they are, they could be this, could be that, but then you have Com Kelleher kind of just moving the goal line or advancing towards what it is and just blatantly saying, yeah, no, definitely the answer is yes. So making that be the new standard is just saying now, like, are we moving towards disclosure closer at this point? Because now the answer is just yes. And then now what's next? What do we get after that? Now do we get, we have captured beans, or, you know, is that like the next step? Do you feel like this was that official step, like towards just saying, hey, we see things that are anomalous? Like, are we now move past that point with the statement like this?
I think we are. It's just that we in the ufology community, in the phenomenon community, who study it and who are trying to come up with ways to prove it ourselves, since the government isn't. That's the topic of tonight's show and what Tom does. I'm convinced that this has happened. And yes, if you sit back and think about it, you can say, well, we aren't alone. And now the whole humanity shift that you and I talk about all the time, Rob, could and should occur, where humanity should say, gee, you know, we're not alone. We're not we're not the only kids on the block anymore. Maybe our focus should be on that instead of on each other, and understanding that and where we sit in that bigger picture. And maybe we have more in common than we have differences. But I don't know.
How you feel, Tom? Are you more optimistic now? Do you feel that was like an official step towards just full disclosure, or from the government's end, at least from what you just heard him say there, Com Kelleher?
Well, I think full disclosure to the point where they're saying, this is what they look like, and this is where they come from. So we have, you know, something like that. That's what I would consider full disclosure. And, you know, opening up the Roswell, what happened there and whatnot. I get kind of mixed feelings about this. On one hand, we have a military budget that's approaching $1 billion, $1 trillion a year. We're not at war with anybody. We used to have simultaneous wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, and who knows where else. And that, I thought that was a fortune. And now we're not apparently in these countries bombing them, and we're still spending crazy money. So it needs, if they say, hey, there's some aliens up there, that'll justify this budget to go forever for the military industrial complex. And then on the second hand, I think, well, the military covered this up because the mindset at the time it happened during Roswell. That's when the decision was made. But Roswell was just a few years after the War of the Worlds broadcast. So we're in that mindset that these little green men or whatever are going to come down and destroy us. So that's the mindset they're working off. And for some reason, they're covering up for all those dead people, still with that mindset. But I don't think it's anymore has to do anything with panic is one, but I don't think it has to do with they're going to here to overthrow us. I think it has to do, they got to be very careful how this slowly is disclosed, because there'll be like run on the people if they just come out and say, yeah, if Biden came out, whoever the president would be, and say there's a life form, there's something here, it says a lot, there'd be a run on the bank the next day. I mean, we've seen that with the Silicon Valley Bank. It had nothing to do with aliens, man. And there were people freaking out over that. So the amount of freak out is going to go to 11 if they say too much, too fast. So I think it's a slow moving generational thing. And then the generation that is coming up under us, they don't have the attention span for this stuff. You know, they have the phones. They have I need it now. I need it now. I need it now. They're not used to waiting. I've been waiting a long time. And I'm excited we got to where we are. This is a hell of a thing where we have all these scientists doing this. This is not like it was 30 years ago where we were kicked in the teeth all the time.
Oh man, and that's the thing. I mean, you make great points, and you know, I was leaning like, okay, this could be But then you made good points about the budget and the not being at war and all this money that's still going into the military budget. And so that kind of brings me back to the middle. So I guess, man, hopefully he says more, or like you stated, the Gillibrand, the hearing coming up, hopefully something comes out of that. So I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll get some idea of who actually showed up there. Maybe Tom Kelleher is there. Maybe he shows up. Maybe they call in the guys that we want them to talk to. So I guess, yeah, we'll put a pin in that then, and then we'll revisit that on the next news, disclosure news. So for now, then, let's just go ahead and get out of the disclosure news and jump into the main meat and potatoes. All right. So, this is a social dig, and obviously we have our friend Tom King here. Tom was on the episode that we had done previously called Skywatching 101, where both him and Tim Senor came in, gave us some great ideas on how to skywatch on a budget. Tom showed his awesome gear and his rigs it's like robo gear that he has over there. And he also showed us a video that he had caught with something that I felt was anomalous in the sky. So you did all that, Tom. What are we doing today? What do you have for us today?
That I call that the M UFO now, the one that's spelled an M twice within 10 seconds. To me, that just takes me back. I mean, bugs can't do that. Birds can't do that. All right. Balloons can't do that. The only thing that can do that is like a drone or something at that effect. So I'm like, I'm going to throw everything I got. All my gear's going outside. I'm going to double down, triple down on what I'm doing. I'm not going to give up. I independently, just by myself, doing my own sky watching, confirmed that there's UFOs all over in the atmosphere, up very high. They're too high up to even see from the ground. So you need some type of optical equipment to even see them. I put all my cameras up. Right at this point, I have one of my cameras malfunctioning. The first Lorex camera I bought was a dome camera, 2K. And woke up the other day, it no longer can focus properly. I was hoping it was hungover. It was like, sometimes electronics break and they fix themselves. Please fix yourself. Right. And it can't focus properly. It only has 12x. So I'm like, well, these are consumables. These don't last forever. They're going to break down, and then you fix it. You either give up or you replace it or you get better. So I'm getting better. So I'm thinking, well, got a few options here. I could replace that with a 4K Lorex dome camera and get twice the power. The problem I have with these Lorex cameras is they basically are a big bowl and water can come in through the camera. So the cameras are pretty much waterproof. They're designed to be pointed down, and I have mine pointed up. So these ones the Lorexes aren't sealed, and the dome spins around. And when it rains for like 3 days, and I'm talking heavy rain, and it doesn't do that too often in Phoenix, they soak up with water, and eventually they shut down. And when the water evaporates, it turns back on. But the other camera system I have for the UFO DAP is I think it's called the Dahu camera. These are sealed. These have basically almost a vacuum type seal on them. So I was talking with the creator of UFO DAP, Ron Ulch, quite a few months ago, and I was asking him if the UFO DAP would work with a certain type of camera. And I'm going to go to the point where I'm going to share a screen here. Let's see. Let me find it real quick. Okay, this isn't the one I wanted, but this is what Ron suggests. Does this screen show up on the camera here?
Yeah, let me see if I could make that. There we go.
You might have to activate it on your end.
Yep, you should be up full screen.
All right, so what we have here is the camera he suggested. And I'll zoom in here so we can read the text better. Now, these cameras are sealed. As far as I know, it's sealed around here. What this is it's pretty much a clone of my Lorex 4K camera. So this is an IP camera. It has 4K resolution at 30 frames a second. It's predictive focus algorithm, I hope, because I'm really disappointed in the autofocus the Lorex has. I can't turn the autofocus off at all. It has intelligent video and automatic tracking. This will work below 0. And it'll work in the Phoenix hot weather. This is one of the most important things right here. It has a IP69 ingress protection. Now, what that means is if you look this up, it means this is a certified rating that a third-party company will do on your system. It means the entire thing is dust-proof, where it can't get dust inside of it. And that might be why my 2K camera is malfunctioning. It just might need to be cleaned. But this also means it's completely waterproof up to 1 meter submerged. So you could throw this in the pool, it would work. 5-year warranty. All right, I had that 2K camera. I bought it March 2023. I used it for 18 months. I took it down. I put a 4K camera up, and then I took that down. I put everything up. So this is a pretty good consumable here, probably around $1,000. It also has an automatic tracking feature, and you could manually follow an object over defined rules. So this is interesting when the rules trigger. However, this would be connected to the UFODAP that does this. Or you could do this with the camera. So I could hook this camera actually up to my NVR system, or I could hook it up to UFODAP. So the plan is to hook this up to the UFODAP and to slave it to the UFODAP. So when the UFODAP looks around at a camera, this one will be looking around, but they'll be about 30 feet apart, or maybe 40 feet. So that will help rule out bugs and airborne clutter, and it'll have to be an object way high up in the sky. The other camera I wanted to get is a lot different than this. That's a 4K camera, but it has a 48 power zoom. I'm really kind of tired of the 20. I want to get cameras that can almost do like a P900 type of level zoom. Like P900 is an 83x, and it's powerful. I have that. I got its bigger brother, the P1000, which is 125, which is crazy insane zooming ability. The future, however, is dual optical dome cameras, where you have, let's say, there's two lenses in the dome, and one of them goes up to say 10 to 20, and the other one is extreme zoom. So they're both synced, and that is new stuff. And you kind of got to wait for it to be cloned and imported and whatnot. I would also like to get a thermal dome camera. Those are over the horizon. Those are hard to source. They're hard to get your hands on. You'd have to get those from China. Typically, these domes are used to put on drones that fly around, and they're used for warfare type stuff. So it's funny how the military tries to use UFO crash technology for war, that we end up using military type technology to find UAP. So that's what I'm going to do with that one camera. It's going to get hot real soon here, so I want to get that up and fixed and put that in service as soon as possible. I've been skywatching with the whole system, which is all these cameras since around January 1st when they went live. I haven't detected anything yet. I filmed Jupiter the other day at 11 in the morning. That's kind of hard to do. And but we've had a lot of rain. I mean, the West Coast has been getting dumped. A lot of rain. We've been in a drought, and it's filled up some lakes. We've got a lot of rain finally. So that you can't really, you don't see much when you rain. I love the sky watching the rain and lightning storms and whatnot to film. But yeah, we've had a lot of bad weather. So I probably have, I think I was thinking the other day, 8 days out of the last 4 months where I'm just sitting here using everything for hours and hours and hours, because you need the right type of weather.
Yeah.
Like, not only will rain kind of screw up your Skywatch, but if you just have overcast clouds where you're up at like 30, 40,000 feet, you basically have a whiteout effect. It's like, I lived in, snow country, and when it's, you got a lot of snow on the ground, it's blinding. So the conditions got to be right. What I find is some of the best sky watching I have that I would suggest for people that want to do this is right after it rains, at least in the Phoenix region, for 2 to 3 days after, we have these billowy, marshmallowy, cotton-like clouds that are usually around 5,000 feet. Those are really good because you can focus your cameras on that cloud. You can, and then study the area, and then you can get a reference. What sucks is if you do get a UAP and it's just a blue sky, you got nothing to go on. No sizes to judge, no distance and whatnot. One thing I did get last Sunday, I caught some balloons flying around the country. So let me bring this up. Let's see if I can share this. So let me get this.
Now, let me ask you, I guess, while you're searching for that. So the camera you showed, that it was a hanging upside down orientation. So you would actually have it turned up, looking upwards. Okay. And then the Cosmic Watch, is that, I don't understand exactly what that is or how that plays in. Is that what helps automatically track the objects that move in the sky? Is that?
No, that's all. That's a different type of radiation sensor, so that's not actually going to track them.
Okay.
But if you bring up, I got flight radar on the screen. If you want to bring this up.
Okay. Yes, sir. Let's see.
And this is kind of newsworthy because with all the the shoot down of the balloons and whatnot, we got more of them now.
By the way, I like that camera too, Tom, because it's IP67, and then the design is such that when you do turn it upside down, it doesn't look like it's going to be have a problem with water.
Yeah. In order for it to be IP67, what I find is when you take the cameras apart, because sometimes there's reset buttons inside of them, and there's a few bolts you take apart, there's a rubber seal around it, and you hear like a helmet coming off. It's like it's vacuum sealed. And if you have water in the thing, condensation, and you bolt it together, it will not leave. It will not burn off with the heat. It'll be trapped in it. I had that happen with you for that.
It'll always
fog
it up.
Yeah, it was fogged up, so I had to take it apart, clean it, put it back up. It won't fog up again. So that's that. Yeah. So what we're looking here is this is flight radar. There's 3 balloons right here. Okay, so now, as I was talking about earlier, these balloons, and this is the this balloon right here is right now. It's entered New Mexico. It's at 53,000 feet. It's typical, or 57,000. It's typically around 60. This is probably going to head over Albuquerque. Okay. Now we know where these come from. This goes back a few days, but doesn't show the total flight here. It was almost over Tucson, and we have a sensitive. We have Davis-Monthan Air Force Base there. So I'm wondering, what the hell are these things? I mean, what's the purpose? And then we have this other one up here, and this one's at 63,000 feet. And look at how they're basically, it was stuck in this flight path, right? Going back and forth. Now, when it rains in LA, we get the rain the next day in Phoenix. And then the day after that, it probably goes over to Albuquerque. So in 2 days, it could go across 3 states. Why are these things lingering for over 2 weeks?
Yeah,
okay, these
weird.
are above. These are, you can see the altitude 60,000 feet. Okay. Now, one thing, if I have a subscription to Flight Radar 24, and you can go into 3D view. So I'm going to hit this, and this is going to generate a screen for us. And this generates, based on Bing Maps, where this balloon is and its altitude. What's interesting is it shows the balloon for an icon, which I've never seen before on flight radar, which is what it got my attention. But it uses a damn commercial jet.
It uses a jet for the symbol.
Yeah, what the hell?
Because that's all they got.
Yeah, that's all they got. For example, if I click on this jet here, it'll be a jet. And what's interesting is you could watch. If I had a helicopter harassing my house the other day, and I could click on it and I could watch it watching me. So this is basically the plane in motion, and it's at 30,000 feet. And when they land, it generates off of Bing. It's an interesting feature here. And if I were to click on a helicopter, it would show a helicopter. Oh, earlier I was tracking military planes coming up from Tucson, and they were landing at the airport. So if I go here and click on that helicopter, we go in 3D view. So this is a tip for skywatchers. It's $10 a year to have a subscription to Flight Radar, and it's pretty interesting to. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you explain sorry to cut you off, but how do you explain the fact that the balloon is flying around like a helicopter? What is going on here?
I don't know.
Balloon.
Okay,
it's got propulsion. Obviously, it has some sort of guidance.
It should have blown over to. It shouldn't be over in Florida by now.
It should be over me by now. I know.
Yeah. So where they're launching is they're launching right over here, and there's an airport over here. Okay. So what I was disappointed that one of them flew directly over Phoenix, and it flew right over the whole town. So I'm thinking wide area surveillance. Is that what it's doing? Because they're saying that this company launches. They said 3. It's called Aerostar, and they launch 300 of these a year. So that's about one a day. Where are the rest of them? How come we haven't seen
like a little blimp or something with a motor on?
No, they're big. They're big because I got video of the thing. My system has picked them up. So let me get to that video.
Yeah. Maybe
and so are they some sort of contractor or something like that? Or
okay.
Yeah, Magnetic has asked, is the balloon tethered?
I'm gonna. No, they're definitely not tethered. They're not. The question now
they're going too far. Yeah, they're going hundreds of miles.
Is do they have propulsion systems? Some of these other companies, I've heard they have these up there for months. And I looked around the U.S. I can't see any other ones except for these. And since this is sort of my backyard, I'm thinking of driving up to the place and taking my cameras, and I want to watch one of these go up. I want to film the instrument package underneath it. And I got P900, P1000 thermal. I'll get this thing launching. I want to film who are these people launching this. I want to go up and interview them and knock on their doors. I'm Tom King. I'm an investigator. I live here. What are you guys doing? Are you guys worried the Air Force might shoot one of these down? Have you contacted NORAD? How come some of these disappear from Flight Radar 24? Was the Chinese balloon ever on Flight Radar 24? I don't think so. These are cool. There could be more of these around, and they're not even on Flight Radar. So if you have any questions, go ahead. I'm going to search for the video now.
I was going to ask you that. So it isn't that Flight Radar is going to pick up everything in the sky. It's going to pick up certain type of craft. So saying that maybe it didn't pick up the Chinese spy balloon, but it's picking up whatever this is. Do you think for sure this is a balloon?
Oh, yeah.
I think flight radar, Rob, picks up anything that has like a transponder in it that will identify itself to flight radar.
Okay, Rob, I'm ready to share this video, so it will be loading right now.
Okay, here we go.
What we're looking at is a video that my system recorded last Sunday of one of those balloons that you see on Flight Radar. This was stuck it was basically over Maricopa, Arizona. I asked a buddy that I know lives there to go and look up, and he couldn't see it. It was at 60,000 feet, but you'd probably need binoculars and whatnot to find it. It took me a while to actually find this. So what we're seeing here is this is just like the Chinese balloon in shape, where it's pumpkin. Now, I've recorded one of these before, and the thing had a teardrop shape because it was, the instruments were below it, and that was a NASA balloon. Now, these are claimed that these are just weather gathering systems. I'm like, really? This got to cost some money to put 300 of these up a year. I mean, have you seen the price of a Whopper lately? Everything is expensive. $7 for one of those things. So what's this cost? Nothing's free. So who's putting this up? So as I skip forward in the video, you can see it don't move much. I mean, it's pretty easy to track one of these. This is the first time I've ever seen an object stuck. What it did look like, it kind of looked like there were 4 cow-type udders under it. I used my tools. I used Google Maps and Flight Radar to measure the distance of this to my house, and it was at least 22 miles away. So that's all. I mean, my camera's got a pretty damn good range. I also got the UFODAP to watch this for a while. And yeah, I watched this. I recorded this from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. And so anyway, that's some of the.
What's your theory? What if you had to guess exactly what was going on there? What would your theory be with that?
I have 2 of them right now. It is as they say it is. It is just a boring weather system. Okay, I've got a million questions. For who? Who's funding this? Where's this data go? Is this going to NOAA? Is this going to any National Weather Service? Because, yeah, I heard there's about 300 weather balloons that go up a year. And they say they put up 300 weather balloons a year. So wait a minute. They're doing globally all of them? The math isn't adding up here. Or it's a Chinese front company that's sending up spy balloons. That's a huge possibility. So, yeah, I want to talk to him. You guys afraid you're going to get shot down? How's this all working? Let's see.
Investigative reporting.
Yeah. Could it be NSA surveillance geared, Tom? I mean, we've all heard about that before, where they're just basically listening in on what we citizens are doing just to make sure that there are no bad actors in amongst us.
That's another question. That's a good one. The listening, they spliced our underwater fiber cables to do that. Mm-hmm. But there's a thing, if you look this up, called Gorgon Stare. And what Gorgon Stare is, it's a mix of U.S. and military that came up with a system. So long story short, picture taking the cameras out of these iPhones and putting 125 of them on a sensor. And they all stare down and they're networked together in a grid. They watch an entire city. So if it could hover, when they tether these, they're parked. And it could watch an entire city. There's a place where a company just like 40 miles north of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that launched one of these balloons, and they tethered it for a month. And they watched everything that happened in Sioux Falls. They watch you go to work. They watch you go home. They could literally trace a bank robber back to his house. I mean, this type of technology is, and the other thing that's very interesting is I would love to have it, because think about this, Rob. You're up at 60,000 feet. You're looking down on all commercial air traffic. And those planes, like when you look up and you see a Southwest jet and it's cruising, you barely see it. That's up 30,000 feet. Now just think this balloon's up double. So when it would look down, it would still see looking down that plane's, small.
Pretty small.
It's extreme height. So this extreme height allows you, with this wide area surveillance, to watch all UAP traffic. So not only, let's say Sioux Falls would be under surveillance, any UAP that dares enter that from 60,000 feet, and they're typically around 30, they're going to get picked up by this system. So it could be a dual purpose system where not only are they watching the citizens, but they took back the airspace of their own damn cities from these things. That if you want to screw around with us, we're going to get you UAPs and at least have you compromised with the video. So if they have 3 of these up, right, and these balloons are kind of close, they'd be watching entire military bases. Who knows what these things are doing? But this is America, damn it. We should get some answers.
Yeah, and then you saying that because I know is and you speaking of the flight tracker, and I've heard like a few years back of people who have monitored flight tracker and saw that they had certain planes circling all day long in a certain specific area, and then they run the tail number to find out that it's registered to a private company that ends up being a front company for one of the, as Dave says, 3-letter agencies out there. And so, yeah, could this be a bridge off of that? Domestic surveillance. Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, now that you say that, definitely.
Well, it's not too well known, but we do know now that the FBI has been contracting shell companies that are using private pilots that just fly circles around doing surveillance. And they're using these Gorgon stair type technologies in a Cessna. So a balloon would be cheaper because you can keep it in the air a lot longer. You don't have to pay for a pilot. You don't have to pay for the gas. So this could be the FBI in another level. This actually started before 9/11 or after 9/11. It was in 2000 when I had a network of skywatchers around this valley. And a friend of mine said, hey, there's a Cessna that's taken off from this Air Force base, or this landing strip that we have south of us. And it's basically circling downtown Phoenix every night because he was watching it fly over his house. And, you know, I hate to say this, but thank God I smoke cigarettes. All these cigarette smokers have seen a lot of stuff because they're outside smoking or walking the dogs. Anyway, he saw this, and we started watching this plane. This plane would just be circling. Now, back then, we didn't have flight tracker, but this plane, what it was doing, it was watching crime, apparently, and over downtown Phoenix. How you can do that from a Cessna, I don't know. But when they start something, a government program is never given up. It's only expanded upon. So they probably are doing this at different levels. The Pentagon has wanted basically to take these things and put them over every goddamn city and watch us like North Korea or something. So it could be a part of that. This could be a front company that's testing this out. I'm determined to find out. If they're going to keep launching these, I'm going to tape them. But that's enough of that. I was watching that going, is this going to get shot down? Like, is there an F-35 going to come up and pop this balloon? But let's get into this cosmic watch.
Yeah, so I'm in the email chain, luckily. I mean, I'm not, Mateo's the engineer at the Social Dig, so he's the guy with the brains and the programming capabilities and talents. And, you know, I'm just lucky to be a part of the email chain, and I see a lot of the stuff that you guys are passing back and forth, and some of it truthfully makes no sense to me. I mean, my brother does work for NASA. We are smart guys, but as far as this programming thing that you got, so I guess Mateo, explain what it is that you guys have going on with this Cosmic Watch.
Yeah, I'll give a brief background, and I'll let Tom talk a little bit, and then I got some slides too once if we got time to get into the science. So Tom and Tim, who couldn't be here tonight, have built themselves arsenals of camera equipment, be it visual or infrared spectrum camera stuff to watch the skies in order to try and capture the phenomenon. Others have also investigated, and we learned a lot about this from Caroline Corey's Terror in the Sky movie. They have also brought to bear other types of equipment because we believe, no one has any proof yet, that the phenomenon can also causes other things to occur in our environment, other disturbances to occur besides visual effects. Maybe there's some sort of, maybe they can be picked up on radar. Maybe they cause something audible, which is very, very rare. The Cosmic Watch is a device that's actually going to detect radiation and particles that get high energy particles that get generated in our atmosphere for a number of natural and possibly unnatural reasons. So the purpose of the Cosmic Watch, Tom's got his, I've got mine over here. The purpose of the Cosmic Watch is to see if we can detect the invisible trail, if you will, of the UAP phenomenon. And that's what we're hoping to do with the Cosmic Watch. And there is evidence out there that the UAP phenomenon caused several invisible disturbances: magnetic disturbances, electromagnetic disturbances, electric fields, and also radiation and particle generation. So the Cosmic Watch takes care of covering the particle generation and the high energy particle radiation, if you will, and just general radiation like X-rays and gamma rays. So that's the purpose of the Cosmic Watch. So think of it as eyes on the invisible thing that the phenomenon might produce. That's the purpose of the Cosmic Watch. There are other devices out there that we can touch on, but there are also things that Tom and Tim and I are working on trying to build into the arsenal. Tim's already got some things like magnetic fields and electric fields and electromagnetic stuff like radio frequency. Those are other things that are invisible, right? We can't see that, but those are sort of some disturbances that might tip you off and say, hey, something's going on out there. So that's the purpose of the Cosmic Watch. If the Cosmic Watch can tell us something anomalous is taking place, then we can focus the cameras. That's the purpose of the Cosmic Watch.
Okay.
So I'll let Tom go ahead and talk about how, what he's done and the whole process of assembling this thing, which was quite a challenge.
I gotta hand it to you, Rob. I don't know if you know how smart Matteo is, but we're sitting here in a podcast with a guy who's probably smarter than Bob Lazar. And I don't hand out compliments like that very often. So probably the first and last time I'll ever say anything like that about people. This guy is a freaking genius. I thought, well, I'm pretty clever. I can build droids. Eventually I'll build TIE fighter. This guy, he would send a TIE fighter over to pick me up and fly me over to his house. I mean, this guy is a freaking genius. I'll be talking about something. Here's an idea. And I wake up in the morning and he's got an email with an executable install file and it's working. Like, how do you do it this fast, man? I'll tell you what, he can't work for the government because he's too fast. The government would take 10 years to do it.
I tried. They wouldn't hire me.
Gee, right.
Well, all we do is recruit geniuses.
Very slow. You might be too smart, to be hired. But anyway,
old.
This technological thing, I wish I had this during that M video so I could see if we got a hit, So the idea here is, like he said, this will run all the time. It'll never shut off. I have it hooked up to the UFODAP system that's run off an Alienware. You don't need an Alienware for this. Any computer will run this. I just have an Alienware because it used to make a lot of money mining Bitcoin, and now it's repurposed. So this thing was extremely hard to assemble. This comes out of a kit from the UK. So you can source this and get all the parts yourself. Or there's a place in the UK that'll sell you everything. You just have to assemble it. Or you could pay to have it assembled. Now, I would say this. Don't try to do this yourself. It's too hard, man. I mean, there's micro parts in here that we had to use a digital 1500 power microscope to see where pin 1 was. And if we didn't know, we'd solder it on backwards. It wouldn't work. This had 100 parts or so that had to be all soldered or it doesn't work at all. Something would stop it from collecting. So it's very hard. Now, you can buy one assembled, but I think they told me it was 6 to 7 months wait time. So that was like, I asked them around, what was it, November? And they said, we might get you one in June.
You discovered them in November, and then you and I both went after them, and they were very responsive.
Yeah, they're everything, all their instructions were perfect. They even put them in the right order. But one of the problems was the video. This was created by MIT. It was like a half-hour video, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. I couldn't solder this myself. An electrical engineer come over and do it. And this guy, he repairs the CMUs or whatever in Porsches. So he fixes Porsche's computers. What the hell is this? Beyond Porsche, man. So now it's here. what we learned is the thing doesn't have the horsepower to run the LED screen and save to the SD card at the same time. Hell, toasters have more technology anymore than that. So it wasn't too useful. It was going to be an either or situation. And I didn't know if I wanted this outside or inside. It turns out it doesn't matter. If you go outside, you're not going to get really more readings or particles. So you can run these indoors. Mm-hmm. But this is after you've spent 10 grand on SKYWATCHING gear. Then you get this. You don't get this first. We don't know if this works, right? So here's the process. If I had this during the M video, the idea would be, did the Cosmic Watch get it? Well, when we assembled the thing and we found out after we built them, no, it wouldn't get it because it doesn't save properly. Even if it saves to an SD card, the Cosmic Watch doesn't have a clock built in it. Isn't that weird? The Cosmic Watch doesn't have a clock. Who writing these jokes? It's called a watch, for fuck's sake. Well, sorry.
Yo,
no clock in it.
Love it.
Oh, so.
Yeah, so blame the guys at MIT. No, they made it simple.
Geniuses,
simple as they could. It's actually quite sophisticated, but yeah, there's no time of day clock in it.
there's no watch in the Cosmic Watch, not the conventional. So anyway, when you hook it up to a computer, you can suck that data out with
the computer.
Arduino or however our new Bob Lazar figured it out. He figured out how to. He wrote his own software. And it writes the date and the exact time in seconds and the whole reading into a convenient CSV file, which is just a flat text file in a way. And this then can be imported later and graphed out. So now, because of this gentleman, this genius, we have a way to capture data with the Cosmic Watch. So the process is SKYWATCH for a UFO. And when I get something, then I'm going to check what's on this watch. Did a radiation hit come out? Does this is there correlation?
Or because the other way around.
Yeah, or
if you're not paying attention and the Cosmic Watch alerts you that something is going on, then you can bring your cameras to bear.
Exactly. Then so we need to make this connection that the Cosmic Watch does or does not trigger during a UFO. So one of the problems here is you could have people saying, well, it was a bird. You didn't film a UFO. You got a bird. A bird, a balloon, a bug, a plane is not going to affect it. So this will help. If there's correlation, this will help rule out some of the three Bs. The debunkers come after you with birds, balloons, and bugs. That's their default thing. If you can conquer that with the M video, then they attack your character. Well, I want them to attack the science. So now this is going to take some years, but it's going to take multiple sightings with people like me, Tim Sr., Dave Mason, or whoever's going to be out there skywatching with this gear. But this gear became way better because he didn't update. Now we have live feeds from it. So I want to show you guys what it looks like computer-wise with the Cosmic Watch. So I'm going to bring that screen up.
Yeah, I love it. It's an example of the people being able to have the science to collect the data. I love that.
No, it's great. I'm glad you like it, Rob. Yeah, and all credit goes to the team at MIT who actually developed this. There were grad students who put this together, and the guys at the UK Radio Astronomy Association, kudos to them for the great kit that they made.
Let me...
Yeah, no, you made an awesome videos up public on your channel, Mattel.
Yeah, the assembly video that helped Tom and his helper out, his engineer friend out, was
you guys go check
on
that
my
out.
channel. And I believe it's actually done pretty good. It's almost got 300 views because I think a lot of people around the world who put the Cosmic Watch together for other purposes have referred to it since I kind of did as much of a step-by-step as I could.
Just like
okay, Rob, I got the screen up.
There we go.
Check this out.
Yep, go ahead.
See if this is showing
So this
up.
is the screen that shows basically each reading as it happens. And so you get like live data at the top, and you can see Tom's Cosmic Watch has recorded 10,270 total hits. And then there's an average rate of hits. So he's getting about 1.8 hits per second. And then there's an amplitude number there that tells how big each hit is in terms of its strength. And then the Cosmic Watch also has a temperature sensor in it, which is really immaterial. But down in the little screen there, all of that data that we're seeing for each hit is being shown on the screen with a timestamp. And then at the top, there's a log file that Tom has specified. And so all the data that goes on the screen also goes in a log file. So let's say you were running this and something anomalous happened. You could go back and look at the CSV file and say, what happened at 2:05 p.m.? Because something triggered the cameras. You could go back and see, the data was through the roof, right? Or the hit rate tripled, or the strength, the amplitude of the hits doubled or tripled during that time period. That's what we're looking to do, is see if there's some sort of a correlation to what the Cosmic Watch is picking up and the phenomena.
All right, I crashed it out to reboot it, but Rob, I brought that screen back up. If you want to share this back up, and we can go over a couple other things if they show up right.
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay, is the graph screen showing up yet?
No, the graph is got to click it's you'd have to share that window separately, Tom. I tried to do this earlier.
Oh, okay. Well,
why don't you share the graph screen and then we can talk about that?
Okay.
Since a pictures are worth 1,000 words. You can't share both at the same time. You have to do the other one. I tried this earlier, rehearsed this earlier with Rob before we started the show.
Figure this out. The graph one is now a live. Here we go. This will come up now. This thing's beautiful. I love this.
This all came from your feedback, Tom. You were the one insisting. And I said, no, Tom's right. You got to make it. See, the whole point is let's make the tool practical. We have to make it useful. I can share it if you want, Tom.
Rob, it's up and running if you can find the share button. I think it should share.
There it is. Yep, we got it.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is the Cosmic Watch in real time graphed out. And as this goes on, this data will populate along the bottom. So what we're looking for here is a spike during a UFO sighting. So what this now is a part of my family. This thing sits there on one of my screens and it's up there all the time. So when I'm sky watching, if I look over and I start seeing some spikes, then I'm like, well, is there a possibility a UFO, a flap is happening? Is something flying over the top of us? Matteo, how long does this, it looked like it saves about 40 minutes worth.
Yeah, it's 5,000 hits. So it's now remember and I only did that many because I didn't want to gobble up too much computer memory, since obviously each one of those hits gets stored. And it's all of the data though gets stored in the CSV. So you're seeing like the last 40, 45 minutes worth. It's about perfect. It's like the porridge isn't too hot and it isn't too cold. That's a perfect right in the middle spot that you just nailed off the bat. I grabbed that number. I thought about it and said, well, you and I are both seeing about 1.5 to 2 hits per second. So 1 hit per second would be 5,000 hits, would get us 5,000 seconds, right? So that's kind of what was thinking about. And I'll add one thing here so Rob can follow along. Each of those spikes that are tall are basically high amplitude hits, which are meaningful, but we expect that when the phenomenon occurs, that's going to go off the chain. In other words, an occasional high energy hit is natural. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but we are getting bombarded by cosmic radiation all day, every day. And when the sun has a flare up of some sort, we get bombarded with more. So this is very normal what you're seeing on the screen right now. This is just normal background noise.
Yeah.
What we suspect is when the stuff really happens, that those spikes will be like packed next to each other, and they'll be high, or they'll be like dark. Everything will turn blue because the hit rate will go from 1.5 or 2 times a second to like 5 or 10 times a second. So it'll stick out like a sore thumb. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, because if it doesn't, damn, I mean, I don't care. I'm skywatching anyway. This is another sensor to collect data.
Right.
If it works, this is a big fucking discovery.
And you saw the buzzer on it as well, right? So you have an audible
yeah, the computer program has an alarm in it. I don't know if you've heard the alarm yet, Tom, but
I haven't. Can you custom trigger that? Because if you hear these beeps in the background, that's UFO DAP. Every time it starts auto recording, beep. So
right. The alarm. I put a buzzer in this one, Rob, because this one is for Tim and his efforts. And since Tim, we're doing 2 different things here. Tom's Skywatching is basically a base station, a home base station. Tim is going to be more mobile. And so having a computer tethered to this for Tim's application is less practical. Tim wants to be able to just plug it in and leave it somewhere and not have to monitor it. So what I did is initially I said, well, let me build the alarm feature into the Cosmic Watch so that it'll just beep itself. So I added a beeper, which didn't come with the kit. And I changed the program, the firmware, to energize the beeper. For the PC program that I wrote for Tom, it does the same thing, but just does it in software on the computer. So then it's looking for, okay, we got a whole bunch of high energy hits, sound the alarm. Or our hit rate doubled or tripled, sound the alarm. So the PC will actually alert Tom if something goes crazy. He'll hear this siren audio that I built into
I haven't
the program
heard it.
You'll get a laugh out of when it comes.
I just say I'm in the email chain. I'd see you say, "Hey, Tom, I just did this. I just now you can do this," and then Tom's coming back like, "Oh wow, that's freaking awesome! You did that." So I'm loving the back and forth and seeing this thing progress. So it's exciting to me for sure. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, you did.
Thanks,
you knocked it out of the park with bases loaded. I don't know what else we could get out of this. Like what other useful another idea. Maybe have it load it CSV and then have you scroll through time. I don't know.
Oh, where you
this
can
is good enough.
You can edit the data back again. Yeah, that's feasible. Yeah. I mean, that way you can pick out the stuff a little more easily. You can also do that in Excel because that's what CSVs, but then you'd have to open up Excel and make a graph in there.
Yeah.
Do some searching. You can also sort in Excel. That's one of the reasons why I initially did the CSV, because Excel's easy for data manipulation, but it's easier to do it visually. So no, that's a good idea where we can load a whole log file and view it.
Not that you'll have that tomorrow, man. It's Friday. So eat some cheeseburgers.
I got some other work to do, Tom. But no, you're good. You're good right now.
The other thing, we had this Magnetus Attractus in the chat. So, he was talking about Excel. So, one process I could do is say the next M video happens, and I pulled the data off. There could be a lot of data in there. So, the idea is you take the CSV file, then you do a find or search for the date that happened. So, there you go through there's going to be millions. Let me give you an example. In 90 hours up, this thing recorded like 600,000 hits. So we're looking at a fire hose full of data. If you had this up for a month, millions and millions of these muon hits. It's 2 a second, right? So to go through it, you'll do just a find and search, find your date, then just cut down, drag and paste, take that whole day or that hour, whatever happened, and cut that out. And then put that in its new CSV file. Then you would import that into Excel. So you're not loading the whole ocean of data.
Right.
You just want that slice. So as a tool, this is for a guy like me, super skywatching nerd. I can't believe I got anything like this. I mean, this is gear I dreamed about having 30 years ago. And another thing I'd like to do is I'd like to expand upon possibly what Dave Mason has done, where he can turn light into sound and sound into light. I would love to have a tool like that. So let's say that M object comes and you could somehow train that on it because it's flying around crazy. We would have an acoustical signature of a UFO, and it's not giving it up. These things apparently make no sound, but if you could change light into sound, you're kind of raping that UFO, saying, I'm taking what I want from you. You're giving me the goddamn sound, man, because we got technology down here too, and I have an acoustical signature of you, and now we can use that to, like the Cosmic Watch, say, does that acoustical signature happen on other UFOs? Are we getting a hum like we heard about? Is there no sound at all? That's another thing, experiment. This is so cool to be doing. I feel like we all have our own Skinwalker ranch, our own labs of what we want to do. So this is a great time to be in ufology, actually.
No, and you guys are leading the way. You guys are blazing the trail because Mateo knows we push pro-humanity here, and we believe that the people have the power to do what it is that we're waiting for the government and these agents, these groups to gather data to give to us. And you guys aren't funded. You guys are grassroots guys getting together, using your brains and figuring out a way to capture this data. And I hope other people get inspired by that and take the step like Magneticus. He's obviously understands all the jargon, all the lingo, and he could stand out there and do exactly what you're doing. He could watch Mateo's video, build a Cosmic Watch, and apply that to what he's doing over there. And I think we need more of that. I mean, that's what this show may not be for all the basic people in ufology, but for the ones that want to blaze a trail in this space and figure out a way to add to where we're going. I mean, you guys are blazing the trail on that, man. So I'm proud to know you guys, man. Truthfully,
Thanks, Rob.
Serious. I mean, my little brother, he works for NASA, and I'm just as proud as him for what he does. That I love being around guys that are smarter than me.
And it's all for the greater good and for the mission you're on, Rob. My goal with this, helping Tom, helping Tim in doing this stuff, is so that we can get that definitive proof, because the game will change the minute the world knows we're not alone. This is all for the greater good of humanity. We'll stop screwing around with stupid wars and spending the $850 billion that's in the NDAA 2023 on stupid war machines, and we'll start doing something more useful where we're because we now know we're not the only kids on the block. That's the goal here. Find out, prove it, because the government's not going to tell us, and then we can all live in a better and a happier world. And I truly believe that. That's not wishful thinking. We all know that the world will change the minute we know we're not alone, and the minute it's proven. And guys like Tom and Tim I'm all in supporting them, because they are the ones who are going to capture it on film.
Yeah,
and that's what has to happen.
Like so Tom has already done before.
Yes, this is the tool that's going to help us toward that end. This is a tool to add to their arsenal that helps us toward that end.
This shows the Avi Loebs, the UAPXs, all those guys out there, that you guys can sit here and do the same thing and put this together. They're doing.
They just have bigger budgets and people with more advanced degrees than all of us.
Yeah. Well, I hope UAPX, keeps continuing the work. What we're doing with the Cosmic Watch was because of UAPX. I wouldn't have known about that. And
right,
they assembled.
They were the ones who really brought it to the movie, and I agree. I saw that too.
Yeah, this is science. They did it. Now we're trying to repeat what they did. They had a hit apparently when they had that portal open up for a few frames, and they had their own method, I guess, to capture the time and date. And we're just following and trying to confirm. See, they already showed us. And this is interesting that they did get a hit during a sighting when these 40 objects appeared. So that's what we're trying to see is, does this really happen? This will be cool. If this is a repeatable experiment, we got them. I mean, we got at least something on these things for once. We got a proven method that would work, but it's going to take people like me or Tim or anybody out there who's, kind of advanced into sky watching to attempt to get a good UAP and have that watch record the data. And then we'll have a UFO detector to a degree.
Exactly.
Lou Elizondo mentioned that there is some type of frequency
Yes.
that can detect these. So there's something that gives them away that they're aware of.
They
And
talk
that's
about
back-
that
yeah.
at Skinwalker too.
Yeah,
we were talking about the
1.6.
upcoming season for that, Tom, the Skinwalker Ranch show with Travis Taylor. He talked about it last season, where there was some sort of 1.6 gigahertz signal that was always present when the phenomenon was going on. And so there
Right,
are
yeah.
other traceable things going on, or invisible things that we can build detectors for. The Cosmic Watch is just one of them. So we've got radio frequency, we've got, in this case, radiation and muons and other cosmic radiation and artifacts thereof. We've got magnetic fields. We've got electric fields. So those are other things. In fact, one of the things I put into this Cosmic Watch that I can demonstrate here with the buzzer is I added a magnetometer. You have a magnetometer in your UAP DAP, Tom. So you've already got that information. But so basically, if an alien spaceship flies along, we're thinking it's going to emit some sort of radiation or particles. It's also going to cause a disturbance to the magnetic field. And if I take this thing is locked in right now to the background magnetic field. And if I just move it ever so slightly, you can hear it alarming.
That guy. Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, it
So-
sounds like a smoke alarm.
Right.
That gets your attention.
Oh yeah, and it's not
Yeah.
that loud, but it's there. And then it'll average back out again, or I can just reset it once it starts beeping there, and it'll reboot. But yeah, so this is all part of it. A UFO detector that isn't just a visual thing may encompass a few different things. The Cosmic Watch is probably the most advanced one because it's dealing with radiation and cosmic radiation particles and other things that I can talk about a little bit if we've got time. But there's some pretty nifty
Floor is
science
yours,
behind
guy.
it.
Yeah.
I was trying to copy and paste in the chat just a couple paragraphs that come out of the CSV file, so people could see, what that raw data looks like before it's post-processed. But
Yeah,
I
I see. I can bring that
problems.
up.
you
I
wanna do
have
it.
Magneticus was actually asking about that, and I'm going to bring this is perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and share some more screens here, Rob. And,
yeah.
You can.
You want drop that in here? You want me to put that in there?
Yeah, I'm going to drop it in
Okay.
here. The window. Let me just. Is this it? Yeah, that should.
I think
be
I
it.
have
Here
something
we
for
go.
you there.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that,
the
okay.
presentation. But go ahead and share
You
this
sure?
one. Yeah, and so this is what the raw
There you
CSV
go.
file looks like. So you can see
Thank
that
you.
it has some type. When it starts, it'll just dump the date and the time, and then it'll give the hit number. So this is the hits. And this was a filtered data file because I was filtering. Oh, where's my screen here? I could drag it around here, and then you see what I'm dragging around. So it was filtering. But normally it'll do sequential. So you see like this is hit 14806, 14807, 14808. This is the amplitude. And what else did I have in here? So this is the this is the hit rate, the average hit rate. This is the amplitude, and this is the temperature. So we have date, time, which hit it is, the average hit rate for the long term, which is, you can see, doesn't change much, the hit amplitude, and the temperature that was going on, which the temperature is just really not very meaningful. So I'm going to now share with you what if you were to read that into Excel, this is what you can do with it in Excel. And just real briefly here. Hold on, let me bring up my share screen here, and I'll let you bring up the next one, and you can show this, Rob. Bring that up.
This one, okay.
Yeah. So when you read a CSV into Excel, you can see all of the data that we just talked about in the CSV text file ends up going into columns and rows in an Excel spreadsheet, which of course is a heck of a lot easier to look at than a text file. And then all of that data you can actually plot. As you can see here, I just clicked on the plot, and you'll notice this graph that I made in Excel looks very much like the graph I made in the PC program. Why? Because actually this came first and the PC program came second. And I basically modeled the PC program to make a graph that would be very similar to what you can do in Excel. So if you wanted to graph historical data, like this data was from April 4th, you can plot it out and get the time at the bottom and see what was going on when. So that's the whole point of the data logging. See, the Cosmic Watch did come with an SD card reader that Tom mentioned, but it wasn't very practical because it had no timestamps, right? So we couldn't, you wouldn't know when the thing was collecting what and what month or year it corresponded to. So it wasn't very practical. So now we've got reams of data, both live to wake us up and historical to look back at if something did happen. And that's the beauty of this is it's kind of nice to have both, right? Because you never know when the phenomenon is going to show up. It could show up when you're waiting and looking, or it could show up when you're gone, and then you have to come back and see what the heck happened. And that's the beauty of all of this.
Yeah,
imagine
awesome.
We had this data during the Phoenix Lights event when we had these multiple ships that were miles long flying over the city. This thing, if it works as we think, probably should have just broke. You know, I mean, imagine the numbers that thing would give off. So this is turning a corner. This would be hilarious if these secret, impossible UFO mystery to crack was screwed by a CSV file.
Right.
Simple as that, you know. Napkin technology broke them, you know. Amazing.
Well, let's do one more little science lesson and then I'll shut up. Go ahead and bring up the presentation, Rob.
Yeah. I've been waiting for this one, man. Let's bring it on up here.
It's kind of fun. I mean, it just because I didn't know. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I had no idea what a muon was. I did not. I mean, I'm not a particle physicist. But here's some of these slides actually come from the UK Radio Astronomy Association documentation and the MIT documentation. So this first slide just basically shows the Cosmic Watch and the particle, what it can detect, and what is referred to as cosmogenic are the muons. And you'll see what a muon can be, either a positive or a negative charged particle. In general, they're considered heavy, high energy electrons. So they're typically negative charged. Radiogenic are your radiation waves. And you can see you've got alpha radiation, beta radiation, and gamma radiation. Notice the length of the arrows in this drawing. They're actually telling you something here. Alpha and beta radiation, you may not know this, but those types of radiations can be shielded with, like, I think alpha can be shielded with a sheet of paper, and beta can be shielded with like a thin piece of metal. Gamma radiation, of course, is much more penetrating. We all know that. That's highly dangerous. So that gets into the Cosmic Watch. Alpha and beta really don't get into the Cosmic Watch, especially if it's got an enclosure, because it's made out of aluminum. So the gamma radiation does create hits on the Cosmic Watch. Notice the red arrow of the muons. Do you realize that muons are so energetic when they get formed in the upper atmosphere? They not only go through you and me, they go about 1,000 feet into the earth before they finally quit. Yeah, so a muon is a very high energy particle. It doesn't go through the earth and keep going. Some particles do, but this thing is pretty powerful. So it just blasts right on through the Cosmic Watch and gets detected, but it keeps going. So anyhow, on the right here, it talks about how radiation can create particle disturbances and such. But we'll get into, this is really the meat here. So normally all those hits that we're seeing in the cosmic watch are created from cosmic radiation. What is cosmic ray? What are cosmic rays? What is cosmic radiation? Well, when the sun blows off a solar flare, or there's stuff coming from galaxies far, far away, it's basically just high energy protons. A proton is just the nucleus of a hydrogen atom, right? The smallest atom there exists. That thing comes flying into the atmosphere from the sun or from somewhere else, and it starts hitting our atmosphere, right? Oxygen, nitrogen, whatever else is up there. So those things break down and turn into other particles. They decay. These things called pions and kaons. I was reading about that. A pion and a kaon will decay into a muon and a neutrino. And the neutrino doesn't get very far, but the muon just blasts right on through down to the Earth's surface. And it keeps going. So the cosmic ray at the very top ultimately produced a muon that made it all the way to the Earth's surface. And that's what the cosmic watch is picking up. Now, how does this pertain to UAP? Well, we don't know. Maybe UAPs emit some sort of particle radiation like a proton or something. We don't understand their propulsion systems. We were talking about Bob Lazar earlier. How do these anti-gravity propulsion systems work? Do they use some sort of radioactive material? What's going on there? Well, if they do, the cosmic watch is going to pick it up. So this is like a natural explanation of how a muon gets created, but there's plenty of artificial means. So inside the cosmic watch, there's this thing called a scintillator. And I'll draw this picture first. It's basically a piece of clear plastic. It's plexiglass, for lack of a better term. And if you'll notice here, you put plexiglass in a UV light, and it fluoresces. It glows blue in the fluorescent light. Why is that? Well, what's happening is the UV light is getting turned into a visible light because of the materials of the acrylic. Same thing happens with, this is how we detect the muon. The muon isn't visible or anything like that. But what it does is when it comes in contact with the plastic here, it will ultimately create a photon. That's the thing that we're ultimately looking for. What's a photon? A particle of light, if you will. Obviously, we can see light, and we have devices that can pick up light. And that's what the cosmic watch is. The cosmic watch has the scintillator and a device that's going to pick up the photons that get created. So that's what the next piece of the cosmic watch is. This thing called the silicon photomultiplier. And Tom can attest to this as being the most difficult thing to solder in the cosmic watch, because this thing was ultra sensitive. Think of it as a bunch of LEDs in reverse. That's what this device is. What is an LED? It's a diode that you energize it and emits light, right? We all know what LEDs are. The silicon photomultiplier is basically the opposite of that, where it's detecting light and creating an energy pulse that we can ultimately detect with the rest of the electronics. So the silicon photomultiplier is this array of diode detectors, photon detectors, that allow for us to capture the photons that got created in the scintillator, which got generated by the muon. Make sense?
No, but sort of.
It makes. I'm listening. I'm taking notes, man. I'm taking notes.
So the muons create a light particle, and the light particle gets detected by the piece of electronics, and then the electronics will ultimately report it out. That's really what's happening here. So this last slide here basically shows that how the amplitude of the photon creates an electric pulse, and that electric pulse gets captured by the microprocessor, then the Arduino Nano that's running the code that ultimately reports out a hit, and also ultimately reports out an amplitude based upon this. So that's basically it. So I'll stop sharing that there, or you can go back to us there, Rob, because you're in control of that one since I loaded it up. So yeah, that's basically the science behind it. I know that was kind of boring, but I have to share for those who might be watching.
It was excellent. It is actually excellent because, like say, this is part 2 of Skywatching, and if you look at both shows, you got the nuts and bolts and the gear on Skywatching 101, and then here we're getting into the science of it, and then we'll have a third, I'm sure, where you've detected something, and then we're on to something here. But I hope this I know this inspires a lot of people out there that totally understand this language. You know what I mean? So I think it's actually a pretty awesome thing that you guys were able to cover this.
Well, thanks. It was fun. I mean, for me, it's enjoyable. I do this all day, every day, and never do I get to work on fun circuitry like this. So this is part of the reason I did it, is so that I can help the cause of Tom and Tim, and have a little fun while I'm at it. And no, it's good stuff. And who knows where it's going to lead, right? We'll find. We're going to see. Yeah. And if it brings us to the ultimate end, where we're able to say, yes, we caught this on camera. It isn't a bird. It isn't a plane, and it produced particle radiation, blah blah blah. At the same time, the skeptics and the debunkers aren't going to have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, well, at that point, they attack. I'll tell you, they attack your character. They say you don't know what the F you're doing.
Yeah.
They told me I'm filming.
I've heard
the same M video. I've heard it was a bug. I've heard it was a drone, and can't be either of those. Why don't you debunkers get together on your BBs and get them together? Anyway, I've used this device on the watch. This is a digital microscope. And
to help you be able to see the components to solder.
Oh yeah, which one was pin 1? Because you don't have that stuff lined up, don't work. You get magic smoke comes out. Yep. You don't want to see magic smoke. Yep. That kind of wraps the watch. Rob, if you want to move on to whatever else you had for tonight.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm just sitting here and all. Like, I love learning. It's just something I love to do, diving into something and learning. And I felt like I learned a lot today. And then I obviously have you guys at my disposal so I can reach out at any time. And I'm in the email chain, so every time a firmware update comes out, I'm privy to what's going on. So that's awesome. And I enjoyed it. And I think Magneticus enjoyed it too, because he seemed to be able to join into this conversation. So that was awesome, Magneticus. I totally appreciate you always here and you're always doing. And let me go ahead and go down the line, because I know I will forget once with all these messages in here. Thank you, Magneticus, for coming out. Thank you, Dave Scott Spaced Out Radio, for coming out. Thank you, Random Guy, for coming out. Thank you. This is just goes so far back. Let's see. Thank you, Greg O'Brien.
Greg O'Brien was here.
Yeah, got to come back soon. Thank you, Dogface. I think I know you from Spaced Out Radio. And let's see. All right, just the guys in the gang. So, like I say, it was the techie people are gonna love this and love the information given here. And I advise, if you haven't watched the first one, go back and watch Skywatching 101. Lovely video. Come back and watch this one, and there's gonna be a third one. So what we're gonna do right now, we have a couple short segments, and then we'll get you guys out of here. Let's see. Let's go with okay, there we go. Yeah, let's go with one more time in ufology, if we can get that one. All right. So once upon a time in ufology, we're going to end up covering the McMinnville UFO sighting. So just kind of going over some information on this. Let me want to get this full screen for you guys here. Okay, here we go. So the McMinnville UFO sighting, also known as the Trent sighting, was one of the most famous UFO incidents in the history of UFO sightings. The sighting took place in McMinnville, Oregon on May 11th, 1950. The incident involved the sighting of an unidentified flying object by a married couple, Paul and Evelyn Trent. The Trents were outside their farmhouse when they saw a metallic, saucer-shaped object in the sky. Paul Trent ran inside the house to grab his camera and was able to take 2 photographs of the object. The Trents described the object as being about 30 feet in diameter, having a metallic surface, and reflected the sunlight. The object was hovering silently in the air and then moved away slowly. The Trents reported the incident to the local newspaper, the McMinnville Telephone Register, and the story was picked up by other newspapers across the country. The photographs taken by Paul Trent were published in Life magazine and became widely circulated. The McMinnville UFO sighting is considered to be one of the most credible UFO sightings in history. The Trents were described as reliable witnesses who had no history of hallucinations or mental illnesses. The photographs taken by Paul Trent were also considered to be authentic and were subjected to a thorough analysis by experts. Despite the credibility of the witnesses and the authenticity of the photographs, skeptics have tried to explain the McMinnville UFO sighting as a hoax or misidentification of a natural phenomenon. Some have suggested that the object was a model suspended by a string hanging from the wire. However, these explanations have been widely discredited. The McMinnville UFO sighting remains a mystery to this day. The incident has been extensively studied by UFO researchers and remains one of the most famous and intriguing UFO sightings in history. The Trents were never able to explain what they saw that day, and their story has continued to capture the imagination of people around the world. This sighting has led to an annual UFO festival held in McMinnville, the largest of its kind in the Pacific Northwest, and actually second largest only to the one that they hold over in Roswell. Mateo, what do you know about the McMinnville UFO sighting? Have you heard of this one?
Oh, yeah. This is probably one of the most famous classics, right up there with Roswell. 1950, right? This is one of those situations where why would these people create this hoax, right? Everybody who wants to debunk the photo says it was a hoax. It was something hanging from the wire. And there were actually a series of photos because it did move across the sky. So could they have staged it? Perhaps, yes. But 1950, post-World War II era, people were frightened. They weren't going to be doing things like this. And I don't think these people were of that inclination to do that. This was a farming area. He was a farmer. Why would he even bother with this? So the fact that he had a camera is actually impressive, right? A decent camera at the time. And so in my personal opinion, the reason this story still holds water and still has not been discredited and as famous as it is because the likelihood that somebody would have done this and hoaxed it at that time and for the reasons unknown is very low, almost zero in my opinion. It's intriguing to this day. What do you think, Tom?
Well, yeah, this is one of the most famous cases that you always run into in the history of ufology. The photos were forensically investigated by the likes of some of the best in ufology, from Dr. Bruce Maccabee to Buffon, they really went through these, and yeah, they tried to say that this was a string that's suspending some type of hubcap type of device from the wires above it. I don't think in the negatives or whatever they studied they could make out any strings in it. This was I had a friend, he's passed on, but he lived through this era, and he knew people like George Adamski, and he grew up during this era. And he said that back then, these things would come down low. That's why all the good photographs are around the 50s. And I asked him, well, why don't we get that stuff now? Why do we have these phosphorus objects and high altitude type things and stuff? And he said, because the U.S. Air Force decided that we want them. What's going to shoot them down? And about every time they attempted to shoot them down, it cost the pilot their life and their aircraft. But that was one of the things that changed in that era, is they were kind of like, hey, we're here, we're friendly, and we're like, boom, 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 America, we Kid Rock the situation.
It does.
Well, Kid Rock, dude, he'd shoot it up. So that's what happened. So they reacted and said, well, I guess we'll stay back. The apes down there are a little pissed. So that's kind of my thing. This is in a lot of books. I mean, it's great that you covered these old hallmarks in ufology.
Yes, Rob.
Because a lot of people don't know. I mean, a lot of the people on UFO Twitter only know what happened 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that is the point of this segment. It's for the people who aren't as versed in this subject. A lot of people, just like I always say myself, I always believed in UFOs, but I really got into the topic in 2017 when Elizondo came out and said these things were real. And once I realized that, other people like me coming in, and we're learning every day. I don't claim to know everything about the subject, and I know this is a tool that helps those just coming aboard. So that's why we love doing that. So in the next topic that we actually have, the next segment rather, let's go ahead and get out of this one, and let's go ahead and get over to one of my favorite topics here, and it's science fiction to science fact movie edition. Let's go ahead and get that. And the movie for you to go see, Contact. Again, if you've seen it, definitely go and see it again. If you have never seen this, definitely go and see it. Science fiction to science fact. The reason why we do this segment, let me go and bring it in full screen. The reason why we do this segment is because, like I stated again, semi-disclosure has come to the point to where we understand these things are really here. They're real. A lot of these movies you may have watched before that point when they were considered science fiction. Now that we're on the horizon, you heard Tom Kelleher say earlier that it's real, it's a fact, yes. So you look at these movies now through a different lens. Go back and watch Contact for a second time now. Now, we do this every week. We've had a lot of good movies, and I know for a fact if you go back and look at these through a new lens, they hit you a little different. They make you feel a little bit different when you watch these. Are you familiar with the movie? Mateo, I know you've seen this.
Love this one. Yeah, great movie. And yes, it means a whole lot more now than it did when I first saw it. When you first saw it, it's science fiction. It's fanciful to a degree. Yeah, maybe that could happen, but heck, now you watch it and say, man, this this strikes closer to reality than you may be comfortable with.
Yeah, and we have the Artemis. They're going to circling the moon. Who knows? They may see something on the backside of the moon, and they may have contact at that point. Mm-hmm. Tom King may catch something here in the sky with this new cosmic watch alerting the presence, and he may have contact at that point. So, yeah, science fiction to science fact. It's something we do every week. If you have any suggestions on movies to add to that list, definitely leave it in the comments, and we'll go ahead and make sure that we feature that on an upcoming episode. But Pretty much. What do you? Well, let me go ahead and get us out of here, and then we can go ahead and wrap it up. Before we go to the actual Social Dig logo, which is how we get out of here, we're gonna go ahead and take a look and see, what does this mean to you? This is something that we're going to do here often because we are for humanity. So everything we do is for the progression of humanity. Anything we touch, anything we cover is for something to positively progress us as human beings. So all the drama, all the other stuff, we're not into that. What do you have to try? I know you feel the same way, Mateo. What do you have to say about that?
Totally. I couldn't agree more. This is why we're here. Everything we do, whether it be high technology, discussion of the history, discussion of the players involved and what they're saying, it's all to bring us toward that ultimate end and the greater good for humanity. Because that's really what matters here. The truth that lies behind this is the biggest story in human history, as has been said by many, a famous person. And I truly believe that. And I know you and Tom and everyone who's watching this also agree. So that's how I feel. And I'm all in and love the fact that this is your prime directive. That's the reason I'm here.
Yeah, wow, I appreciate that. And Tom, we have you here as a guest. Do you have any outlook on the future of humanity, or you know, where you hope this thing goes for humanity?
Well, this is a very special time in human history for this planet. If you go back from here back to Neanderthal, this is an exciting time to be alive. AI is springing upon us, so we have interesting. We don't even really know artificial intelligence, but it's coming, and it's going to change our lives. I predict going to be, you know, the next big thing since computers. And we have, you know, we had Trump for president. I mean, so if we had, that's weird. We have government talking about aliens. Okay, we're living like in a movie that's unfolding, and you know, with AI, aliens, and all this stuff, this is the time to be here. I mean, after we come out as a planet and we're in a larger universe with other intelligent beings, it'll become kind of the norm. You know, they'll be used to it, but they'll probably like, hey, Grandpa, what was it alive when you had these ignorant humans running around telling you we're the only people in the universe? What was it like being surrounded by so many stupid people?
Exactly.
That you know, we're living in a new era where we're going from alone to an expansion, and it's pretty cool to experience it and to help it unfold, document it, do what you can, and you don't know what tomorrow's going to unfold for us.
Yeah, I mean, nicely said. I mean, pretty much like I say, always remember, we do this here for you, the viewer. We want to thank you for tuning in to the Social Dig. On your way out the door today, please make sure that you take with you our appreciation for your support and your time. And if you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button and subscribe if you already haven't. Tap that notification bell to remind you next time we go live, because we would love to have you back to join the conversation. Once again, thanks for stopping by. My name is
It was
Mr.
great
Rob
to be
G.
here. Thanks for bringing me, man.
Oh, anytime
We'll
you are family.
Glad to have
Tom.
you, Tom, man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
We would love to have you back anytime you want to come back. Please. I
Yes.
told Tim before, it's an open door policy. You're like family. When I go to my family's house, I walk straight through the door. I want you to do the same. Please come back, Tom.
As soon as I get something, I'm going to let everybody know. This is not weaponized, your stupidity over here. I'm not sitting on piles of evidence like the government or other UFO researchers. When I got something valid, I share it with you and say, hey, let's put this out there and see what the community says about it.
Well, nicely said. Like I said again, on behalf of Mateo, on behalf of Mr. Tom King, On behalf of the Social Dig, I am your host, Mr. Rob G. Thanks for coming. You guys have a great rest of your night. Take care.